Welcome to On The Prowl, no quick fix for the Panthers, episode 15. I'm your host, Bill. Last night, the Panthers lost to the Colorado Avalanche 7-4. And what I thought I'd like to do is to take a look at this game first, to look at some of the statistics, and then to look at several columns by some of the writers that we've actually had on for some previous podcasts, and to kind of summarize things as to where things stand for the Panthers right now. Now, we're going to take a look at specifically last night. I want to take a look at the plus-minus column. And if you look for the forwards, Bennett was a -3 last night. Reinhart was a -1. Barkov was a -1. Tkachuk was -2. This is a real standout here. Carter Verhaeghe was -4 last night. Samoskevich was a -2. And Boquist was a -1. Now, for the defense, Ekblad was a 0. Kulikov was a -2. Balinskis was a -1. Boquist was a -1. And Nico Mikkola was a -3. Okay, those are very telling statistics. But I wanted to start off with that because I think it's important to take a look at this and to understand that where these problems are coming from. And there was some great, like I said, there were 3 great articles here, and we want to take a look at these 3 articles here. Now, if you go out on Twitter right now, and I'm going to go ahead and share some of that from my feed here. Now, let's look at some of these things. Panthers have lost 4 of their last 5 games. Not so much a loss. It's the way they are playing, and it's horrible. And after the first period, that was Panthers hockey, a great first period. And then reply back from someone, we had quite a few goalie interference go our way last year, so I guess we really can't complain. And here's the theory: play defense. And then there's a quote by Tkachuk, and we'll get to that quote here in a minute. You try to put your finger on what's going on here with the Panthers, and a lot of what I'm seeing is the defensive effort that's being put forth by the team. Not only the defensemen, but the forwards as well, too, because they have a responsibility for that. I mean, we all can't have 6 skaters like Sasha Barkov out there, the best 2-way player in the game today. We don't have that. But we need for players to play like that in order to have a favorable outcome on the scoreboard. Now, let's go ahead and look at this first article here. And these articles are kind of different in nature. So we're going to go over the articles first, and then I'm going to go ahead and talk about them here. Now, this is from George Richards, who we had on before. Barkov, Florida Panthers losing streak will make us better. All right. As you know, Barkov scored 1 of the goals last night. Do things look bleak for the Florida Panthers? Is it time to start packing things in? Massive changes are coming, right? No. Most know better than that. Barkov especially. Tough stretches. You never want to get to them, Barkov told Florida Hockey Now. But every team goes through them at some point. We just have to find our way out of it. Usually we learn from tough moments, and they make us stronger and a better team. All we can do is concentrate on the next game, work harder, be smarter. Panthers are certainly not thrilled with how the past couple of games have gone, okay? One could blame the 2 losses to New Jersey on tired legs following the 5-0 road trip, which encompassed the New York teams, as well as the sojourn to Finland for a 2-game sweep of the Dallas Stars. Panthers then battled back for a 5-0 win against the top team in the NHL, only to flap to Winnipeg and lose the rematch against the Jets on Thursday. And then on Tuesday night. And then on Thursday, the Panthers lost 3-1 to the Blackhawks, a team with the worst record in the NHL. Every team will go through this at some point, Barkov said. We do not want to be the kind of team that says, oh, this is nothing. We have to work ourselves out of it. We want to do it Saturday. It did not work. All we can do is come out for our next game and try to make that work. And I think Barkov kind of nailed it on the head. This is going to take work. It's not, there isn't, and we're going to get to some quotes by Paul about this, but I wanted to really focus in on the fact that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, and they're going to have to be dedicated to this. I'm going to go ahead and share the next article here. Now, this article was by David Dorkin. We had him on the last podcast, and David was outstanding. 3 takeaways. Panthers can't find their game. Don't expect a quick fix. And he had an interview here with Aaron Ekblad. After Florida's struggles are very real, and they're going to have to figure out a way to get back on track and quickly, because as defending Stanley Cup champions, they're going to get their opponent's best effort every single night. Here are Saturday's takeaways. Can't get back to their game, and it was very frustrating for them because, as you know, they're a very aggressive forechecking team, and Colorado stymied them last night with that. The Panthers are known as a physical and aggressive forechecking team, but they've had a hard time getting their forecheck going because they can't get into the offensive zone with any kind of symmetry. Defensively, it's also been a bit messy. During their past 5 losses, Panthers have been outscored 26-11. So, yeah, plenty of options to choose from here. Now, this is a good quote from Paul here. In a game like that, there's not a single issue with your game, said Panthers head coach Paul Maurice. We're struggling without a doubt, but there wouldn't be a situation where if we fix one thing in tonight's game, we'd have been much better. All right. So, in other words, he's telling you this isn't going to be a quick fix. This is going to take some time to go ahead and rectify the situation. Now, and that's what David talks about here. It's taken a few weeks for Florida to dig themselves into this hole. It'll take some hard work, focus, and dedication for them to get out. Fortunately, if there's one thing we know about this team, it's they're more than willing to put in that work. And I agree with David 100%. We've seen before in the past, they will put in the work necessary to get them back to where they need to be. We got our theories here, but none of them which going to help us the next night, said Maurice. We've got a structure that we need to play. I don't know that we're that far off that, but certainly some execution challenges that we have. They've done it before, but over the past several seasons under Maurice, Florida's had not been invulnerable to a rough patch here and there. It never makes you feel better, Maurice said. Certainly, you learn over time and it becomes who you are, but when you're in that difficult stretch, it doesn't feel any better because you've clawed your way out of it in the past. We're not taking the day off tomorrow to prepare for the next day because you go to work your butt off to get out of those. And he's right. As I alluded to with that quote from Barkov, this is something that they're going to have to work at. This isn't going to be a one-game fix it, everything's suddenly okay with the Panthers again kind of situation here. So, and this is a great article from David. And if you don't follow David, he does write for the Hockey News, and he has great articles out there. And I suggest that you take a look at them. And also with George Richards for Florida Hockey Now, he does a fantastic job. You definitely want to subscribe to him, as well as Colby as well too, and Alex Baumgartner as well. All these guys do a fantastic job. I've had them all on the channel here. They do fantastic work in reporting on the Panthers here. So let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at, there's another article here, Alex Tkachuk, and I'm not familiar. This is the first time Alex came up, but this is a good article too. So let me go ahead and share that here. Florida Panthers can-and skid team looking for answers. And again, more of the same here. And there's a quote from Tkachuk that I wanted to go ahead and read here. We got away with not playing our style earlier in the season, playing non-playoff teams. Now we're playing playoff teams, and they're kicking our butt right now because we're not playing our style. And that's what he said in this interview right here. We've got to get back to playing that way, Tkachuk said. That's when we are going to have success. We got away with it maybe in some previous games early in the season, playing non-playoff teams. Now we're playing playoff teams, and they're kicking our butt right now because we're not playing our style. And he's 100% right. What's the proper fix? Head coach Paul Maurice said there isn't one singular thing that he can call out for that. And he's right regarding that. But one of the things that I do want to call out, and if you want to pay attention to some things and watch, and I couldn't find the stats on that, but there were several odd man breakaways for the Avalanche last night, and they took advantage of them. And you obviously saw on the score sheet. And what was very interesting was it was a lot of their defensive core that was scoring for the Avs, not the usual suspects like Nate McKinnon, which, really when you're getting things like that. And now one of the plays I noticed, now Ekblad had a 0 last night. He wasn't plus or minus, but I did note he pinched on a couple of plays, and it ended up the Avs had a couple of odd man breaks coming back the other way. So, that kind of leads me to believe that, while it's understandable to try to do that to generate offense, you're leaving yourselves vulnerable, and you have to make sure that somebody's back there covering these positions. And it appeared last night that was not the case, as we had quite a few guys in the minus category, especially Verhaeghe. And, and remember, it's a two-way game. And I think, like I said, if all the players were like Barkov, we wouldn't have any problems. We might go 82-0. I'm just kidding. But you'd have favorable outcomes more often than not because of that. So this is something that I think Panther fans need to understand here is this is not going to be easy. It's going to take some time. we're going to need some patience here. And one of the other things that I wanted to talk about here in the podcast is a lot of people are railing against Sergei Bobrovsky, and it's not his fault. Like, if you watch last night's game on, I would say, all but one of those goals, and not obviously not the 2 empty net goals, one of those goals was probably you can attribute to him. The other ones weren't. And a lot of that, again, if you have a sound, solid defense playing in front of you, it's going to help Sergei make those kind of saves. And they weren't there last night. They simply weren't there. Now, I'm also going to say this too, and I think not a lot of people have covered this, and I know Paul said something about not any one thing in particular about that game stood out for him about, the way they played. I thought they played well in the first period. They took a lead there. They were aggressive on the forecheck. They were able to get in and chase those loose pucks. They were able to create some offensive chances, and they did very well. I mean, Verhaeghe scored 52 seconds into the game last night. So it looked like there was going to be a positive income, and then all the floodgates came loose in the second period. And Colorado scored 4 goals, and the game was, essentially over at that point in time. So, when you develop bad habits, you don't want to continue those bad habits. And I think that's something that Paul is trying to address, and he's going to need to do that. And it's going to take some time, and we need to be patient with them. I hope they do well tomorrow night. It's going to be a step-by-step progress to get this team back to where they need to be. And as we outlined here, and I think Tkachuk had a good pulse on this, all right? We started out, we didn't play a lot of playoff teams. We had the series over in Finland. But in between, we weren't really playing playoff teams. And, the Panthers were on their game, and, they did the aggressive forechecking. They did follow up with good, clean hits. They got after loose pucks. They created a lot of opportunities, and they did quite well. They had that 7-game winning streak, okay? But now we're on the opposite end of that right now. And he really kind of got a pulse and a feel for that when he said, we're playing playoff teams, and they're coming out, they're playing the Stanley Cup champions. And when you're playing the Stanley Cup champions, you amp up your game. And that's something that you could see was very evident last night. Colorado's coach had a real good talk with them between first and second period, and they came out flying in that second period. I mean, they were like night and day difference from that first period, and it ended up costing the Panthers the game last night. And that's not to say that the Panthers aren't taking these teams seriously. I believe they are, but they need to realize that everybody is taking them as Stanley Cup champions. Everybody, and I think as George has said in his article, you have to have your best out there against these teams, because they're going to bring their best against you. So you need to be ready each and every night to do this. What's gonna need to be done? One of the things that, for me, defensively, I think they need to kind of shore things up. Of course, well documented the losses that we had after the Stanley Cup in free agency. Okay, no one's gonna deny that. Is it something that can be fixed? I think it can be fixed with the personnel that we have right now. Need to focus on a better two-way game, making sure they cover their defensive responsibilities as well as their offensive responsibilities. And one of the other things last night too, when they were taking shots on net, so many of them were off target last night, weren't even close to hitting the net. It's frustrating to see that. They'll get these scoring chances, and the shots are way off the net. Now, I also wanted to spend a minute or two talking about the interference call on Tkachuk last night. It was a sincere joke, okay? Georgiev did not even make a move, a muscle, to make any kind of get out of the way of that at all. And Tkachuk, I think he barely even tapped him last night. And that call was absolutely ridiculous. And the NHL needs to be consistent in what is goalie interference, okay? No one from the NHL can really tell you. If you were to ask them what is goalie interference, they're going to quote you from the rule book, but they don't even know themselves because it's inconsistent from game to game. They need to have some consistency with their calls last night. Would that have made a difference? It could have. They could have gotten back into the game again, and I think Paul said it best. In the outcome, it could have made a difference. They could have ended up winning the game, but still the core problem is still there with the Panthers. They're not playing their game. They're not playing their style, and we all know what their style is. And you'll know it when it happens. I was thinking, watching the first period, they were back to it last night. And in a way, they kind of were, but it fell apart completely in that second period. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact was their head coach told that team, look, you're playing the Stanley Cup champions. You need to be on your A-plus game for us to have a chance to win. And that's what Colorado did. They got out to their A-plus game, and they came and they took it to the Panthers, and they won last night. Quite as simple as that. They have the Capitals coming up on Monday night. And, unfortunately, Ovechkin will not be playing because he has a broken leg, and he's going to be out for some indefinite period. But don't take that lightly. They're still a very good team. They need to be very dedicated and diligent about that. And then right after that, they got the Maple Leafs. And that's going to be a real challenge for them, okay? The Maple Leafs are no slouch. And then, of course, we all know who the goalie is for the Maple Leafs, Stolarz. And, if we had a perfect world, I wish we could have kept him, but it is what it is as far as that's concerned. So onward and upward. Let's take it a game at a time. Don't panic, but let's get these habits corrected. Let's start looking forward to better outcomes. They need to work on their defensive game as well for the forwards. They need to understand that it's a two-way game, just not a one-way game. And these are things that Paul's going to be doing to help them get back to where they need to be. Sergei Bobrovsky, I didn't see a problem with him last night. I thought he played well last night. Defensively, you need to clear pucks out of your zone. You don't want to spend a lot of time in your own zone. And the first period, the Panthers did that, and they did that well. But come the second period last night and third, it wasn't there. Colorado was spending way too much time in their zone. They couldn't clear the pucks out of the zone. And whenever that happens, that leads to scoring chances for the opponent. And that's how Colorado did it last night. And that's, it was just, they had a couple of fluke goals last night, but still, it was that they were opportunistic. They jumped on that. The Panthers just need to refocus, reset, and take it a game at a time. We got Washington coming up on Monday, Toronto coming up on Wednesday. Let's take it a game at a time. Let's prepare for each game, and I know Paul will do that. And Paul will get this turned around. He does a great job at that. The team has a lot of respect for him. I think they need to focus. One thing they do need to focus on, though, is their two-way game. To find, know their defensive responsibilities as well as their offensive responsibilities. I think one of the other things is shoot the puck on the net. I mean, how many of them were off last night? I couldn't even begin to tell you. But let's move forward from this. And I want to wish to all my subscribers here in the United States a happy Thanksgiving. Is coming up this Thursday. And again, thank you all for watching Florida Panthers Den. I appreciate it. We're growing in terms of subscribers. That is really great. I'm very excited about where things are headed with this channel. We got a lot more great guests that we're going to get on. I got some coming and lined up. So stay tuned for all of that. We're going to have some fun. Florida Panthers hockey is the best, and it's going to get back there. Have some patience. Continue to cheer them on. They will get there. Just exhibit some patience. They will get there. They'll work through these issues. Paul will see to that. As always, guys, remember, it's a great day for Florida Panthers hockey. Time to hunt.